Tenebria. Long ago, when the earth was divided into two kingdoms, the dead lived in harmony with the people of Tenebria, the land beyond the forest. Spirits in flesh and bone circulated freely on the streets, but only the enlightened ones reached the leadership of the world. There had always been peace and harmony between the two rulers who, as a reward for uniting with the eternal realm, had received immortality. Half the world was ruled by Adora, and the other half, Tenebria, was ruled by Kadron, who was handsome but harsh. He seemed to have been born since the beginning of time and loved only wars and death. Although such relationships were completely forbidden, he had come into the world from the love of an earthly woman and a dweller from the world beyond. His mother, a gentle and beautiful woman, had easily fallen into the snares of chaos, who was not at all handsome. He had rooster legs, a lizard's tail, 3 hands, of which only one was human, the others being of a ram and a bull. He appeared before mortals, riding a lion with wings and a dragon's head, but he also had the power to take the form of the man women dreamed of. For a long time, he had fallen for Katarina, a clever and beautiful peasant woman, the likes of which had never been seen in the world. Because she was difficult to conquer, Chaos swore to her that he would give her a boy who would be king and rule the world. He also promised her, besides immortality, that he would never leave his son's side. During this time, a foolish woman from the village, named Violetta, known for her cunning, was eavesdropping on everything the disgusting creature promised. She saw him as he truly was, and tired of poverty, went to the great Demosillus to ask for a suitable father for her child. Demosillus was the greatest wizard on earth. He had received the curse of immortality even before being placed in his mother's womb. Here is the story. Because she could not successfully carry a child to term, she traveled all over the earth with her husband in search of a healer skilled in intimate matters. 10 years had passed for the two of them, and in vain they tried the rarest potions. Their child would not come no matter what. A vulture's claw with a red feather, which flew ceaselessly and rested for just a few minutes on the night when spring became summer, did not help her. 5 years the young family had lost waiting for this bird, and it was all for nothing. Seeing that the struggle was in vain, they waited again, this time for 7 years, in the longest and darkest gulf in the world, for the water dragon that fed only on grown men to emerge from the waters. From this dragon, they needed a tip of its tail, and because he did not want to put his wife in danger, our man ventured to cut the piece they needed, but was swallowed on the spot. Returning home in despair, she met on the road a beautifully colored butterfly, which told her that it would help her, but with only one condition. The child she would bear would receive immortality and the power to unite the seen and unseen worlds. Overjoyed beyond measure, the woman accepted in an instant, and as soon as it disappeared, the little butterfly transformed into a black creature as long as a snake, but which had 44 legs, a single hand, and on its back dragonfly wings, and it disappeared into the depths of the earth. As soon as it vanished, the woman went into labor, and immediately after giving birth to a baby boy, closed her eyes forever. The infant, left alone in the middle of the road, would have had no chance if a rider named Nikolai had not appeared, as if by chance to take him and bring him to his castle. The child was named Demosillus and lived alongside his savior for hundreds or thousands of years until the day when Nikolai called him to his side. Because I saved you and raised you as my own son, I ask only one thing of you. Someday, I will let you know when. Find me a simple woman, eager to have an heir who will rule the world. After hundreds of years from the promise that Demosillus had made to his adoptive father, he proposed Nikolai to Violetta. He took the form of a handsome knight, carrying a lance, banner, and scepter, but also appeared embodied in a specter, dressed in a black cloak reaching to the ground, and sometimes riding a winged horse. Demosillus warned her that no woman dared to sign a pact with him, even if it meant that the infant would receive immortality in exchange for wars. Nikolai has 60 legions of hell under his command, said Demosillus. I accept with only one condition. My child will have to conquer the entire world. So it shall be. Go home now and prepare for the visit of the great Nikolai. Because they were going to be half human and half non-human, the children were born at the same time, a few minutes after the visits of Chaos and Nikolai. Chaos held his son in his arms, and Nikolai his daughter. The daughter's mother, foolish Violetta, frowned a bit at the thought of having a warrior daughter, but what's done is done, and cannot be changed. Shortly after that, she closed her eyes forever. The little girl was entrusted to Katarina, who had given birth to Chaos's son. The two little ones led an ordinary life for a few years. They slept together in the same bed and played all day long. They were like true siblings and got along well, not needing other children around them. When they grew tired, they fed on fresh cow's blood, and their desire to play returned. After a few years, they began to quarrel over anything, to divide their toys, and to seek the friendship of other children their age, so that Nikolai's daughter had come to lure all the little girls in the region around her, and Chaos's son, all the boys. Between the two, there was no longer any path to reconciliation. Friendship was out of the question. Demosillus, realizing the evil that he could no longer undo, looked on in despair and foresaw the disaster he had caused on the day he sent Nikolai to the woman. In vain he sought a magic potion good enough to break curses. What he had done could not be undone. In a short time, the hatred between the two had become so great that no one and nothing could intervene for them anymore. Chaos and Nikolai were very proud of their children, and from time to time sent them help, so that each now had a small army of creatures of hell. Around them werewolves left only fire and blood. Both children, now teenagers, wanted to rule the entire earth, but because both had been destined to be the sole ruler, the battles for supremacy continued incessantly, bringing disasters in their wake. The fights were not always visible but also occurred at night when it is said that cemeteries come alive. During sleep, villagers were visited by livid creatures that fed on their blood. People did not feel the visits, but as soon as they woke up, they could no longer leave their houses. The sunlight burned their skin, and the fatigue was so great that they did not even get out of bed until nightfall. The entire land of Tenebria had become a mixture of horror and sadness. The plots never ended, and with each passing day, more and more people took on the appearance of death. Tired of seeing so much sadness and violence, Demosillus managed to create a potion which he was to divide into 2 goblets. Both contained the same potion, but to differentiate them, one of them additionally contained earth, and the other seawater and fire. He set the goblets aside and waited. As it was written to happen, in the evening, the boy appeared at Demosillus' gate. Demosillus, by the will of Dracon, prepare something for me that will make me ruler of the world. Not wanting to interfere even more in the secrets of the universe than he had done until now, Demosillus asked the boy to wait, and reappeared with the 2 goblets. Choose one, and you will rule the world. Why one? I want both. That cannot be. Yes, it can, said the boy, who had already downed the first potion. Give me the other goblet too, or else Dracon will punish you. Demosillus knelt before the boy. Master, from now on, all the lands of this world are yours. All seen and unseen creatures of heaven and earth belong to you. From today forward, Kadron, you will have as company a magnificent eagle that will accompany you everywhere. Suddenly, a huge eagle entered through a window and settled on Kadron's hand. That's it? That's all you give me? Is that all? The young man roared as loudly as he could. No, Master Kadron, you also have the power to make anyone who flees freeze in place. I want more! The young man shouted. In battles, you will be able to ride dragons. Dragons? Demosillus, my stables are full of the most fantastic horses, but a dragon surpasses them all. What else do you have for me? You will be able to control earthquakes, that's all. I like it, but so that I don't kill you, give me something else, something magnificent, worthy of me. 31 legions in hell, that's all I can give you. At your cry, ghosts, vampires, hell creatures of the most monstrous kind, seen and unseen, will obey your word exactly. You will be their master and the only one they cannot touch. What should I be afraid of? Of waters and light. The waters will be ruled by someone else, and the light will blind you and burn your skin. It will be a piece of cake for me to conquer the waters too, and as for light, I never liked it anyway. Forward with Dracon. Cadron, satisfied with the gifts he had received, left Demosillus' house. As expected, shortly after the boy's departure, the warrior girl also appeared at the door. Demosillus, if you don't make me ruler of the world, you won't see the sunrise. Wait a bit, said Demosillus, and just as he had done with Cadron, he left and returned with a goblet. Drink this. The girl drank everything to the last drop. Demosillus then fell to his knees. Mistress, am I the ruler of the world? You are the mistress of the waters and everything related to waters. You are the mistress of waters above and in the depths, and the sky over the waters belongs to you. Idora, mistress of the waters, you will be able to go on land only at night. Is that all? All islands belong to you. I want more. Give me more, if you don't want to die from Dracon's fury. During rain you can send your demons into the world. You have from your father 60 legions in hell. I want to rule the entire earth. Who do I have to fight? Your brother from when you were just a child, Master Cadron. Because the same earth was destined for both of you, the only possibility was to divide the waters from the dry land. What else do I have? Tell me how I can build my army. At night you will emerge from the waters and lure mortals with your dance who will look at you. Once in the depths, they will be under your rule forever. You can send all the hell under the waters to fight when the earth is wet. Also, you will receive Pontianak. She will be your power on dry land. She is very beautiful and will attract many mortals, but when they approach her, Pontianak will transform into an ugly old woman with teeth as sharp as blades and will feed on their blood. With her sharp nails, she will tear out their entrails. She is called the ghost with a child in her womb. That's why you received her, because you lost your mother at birth. It is time to leave. The spell begins to take effect. Run quickly to the first river and immerse yourself. Once you reach the water, you will know what to do. What should I beware of? Of earth and light. Adora began to feel burns on her skin. She would have wanted to punish Demosillus for not giving her the whole world, but there was no more time, so she took off running. As she ran, her skin broke open and burned her more and more intensely. On her body, huge scales began to appear, bursting from her flesh as a knife goes through bread. Her mouth had dried up and she could no longer breathe. Blood flowed from her eyes. She could already see the river. She was a little way from being saved. Behind her, Cadron stood watching triumphantly his sister in torment. Who else could be his enemy? He let her approach the water, and just as she was preparing to jump, he froze her in place and sent his eagle to finish her off definitively, while she was still on his territory. This bird was not an ordinary one. It had steel talons, its feathers spread 6 meters in flight, and it breathed flames from its beak. The eagle was just waiting. In an instant, it reached poor Adora and began to tear her apart with its sharp beak. And breathing flames, it caused her 100 times greater pain. The mistress of the waters felt her end was near. Remaining frozen, unable to face this situation, she awaited her death when, from the distance, riding his horse, came Nikolai to save his daughter. With his sword in the air, he split the eagle, took his daughter up, and threw her into the water. Adora recovered in a second, and the eagle, under the gaze of the three, regenerated and, trying to attack the mistress of the waters, who was floating on the water. Because the spell was taking effect, the eagle could not fly over the waters and returned helplessly to Kydron's arm, who, increasingly nervous, had to annihilate Adora once and for all. He remembered Demasilis's words, and calling his dragon, he mounted it and set off over the water. His dragon had 24 heads, fish scales, crocodile feet, and falcon wings, and as it was equally of earth, air, and water, it did no harm to the creatures of the waters, but the eagle could freely attack with its beak as long as it remained attached to its master's arm. Adora did not yield either, and although she was not yet familiar with her new status, she summoned the legions of hell to battle. From the bottom of the sea appeared thousands of hellish apparitions, each more terrifying than the last, and they split open the belly of the dragon, which had the power to regenerate, but, because of the pain, roared so loudly that it caused huge waves and flew off into the unknown. Kydron, caught by the legs of his eagle, managed to reach the shore in flight. Finding himself alone on the land he ruled, he realized how insignificant it was not to have everything, and swore to Adora that he would bring her death. The war between the two had begun, and nothing could stop it anymore. "Legions of hell, I summon you to battle!" shouted Kydron, and suddenly a multitude of infernal apparitions emerged from the earth. They were frightening. As far as the land stretched, one could see devils with pitch heads, others with goat feet and dragon heads, long and sharp tongues, large and twisted horns, eyes of fire, buffaloes with fish scales and sharp fangs, wolves that spat poison. In short, all the apparitions awaited the command to attack. Kydron had no power over the waters, but if the waters were to recede, then his army could annihilate the beautiful Adora. So, the master of the earth, Drakon, started an earthquake that withdrew the waters, leaving the creatures of the water exposed. Many perished, destroyed by the army from the land. Then the waters recovered, transgressing the shores, and many from Kydron's army died, burned by the water, which had an acid effect on earthlings. Seeing the disaster, Kydron triggered an even greater earthquake, and the earth split in two, swallowing the water with all its creatures. The hell creatures, as soon as they reached the earth, quickly dug toward the bottom of the sea and emerged again to the surface, continuing the fight. The battle between the two worlds did not cease until the appearance of the first rays of the sun. As soon as it became light, the earth remained empty, as if it were uninhabited by anyone. Here and there, one could only see blood, craters, and little mounds of ash left from the vampires who had not managed to enter the earth, and the light had burned them completely. The inhabitants of Tenebria did not dare to leave their houses. Some feared that they might meet a ghost or a many-headed apparition, and others feared that they would meet vampires, because they were vampires of light. Master Kydron had retreated to his mother Katarina's house. He had desired so much the entire world, and now, seeing how much suffering he had caused, and realizing that he was living a senseless story, he bitterly regretted all the destiny he had received. Advised by his mother, he decided to go immediately after sunset to the water's edge and summon Adora to a final confrontation, which would be fatal to one of them. Prepared and with the thought that he might lose, Kydron waited for darkness and headed toward Adora, but his surprise was great when he reached the water's edge to see that Adora was waiting for him, half emerged from the water. Her appearance had changed. Her white skin now had blue hues, and in place of her long blonde hair, she had green algae that shimmered strangely in the moonlight. "How beautiful she is," thought Kydron, who had almost forgotten why he had come. He wanted to tell her everything he had to say, but no sound came out of his mouth. He remained as if petrified before the beauty, who undulated hypnotically and smiled at him. She hadn't smiled at him since they were both children. "Let's end this foolish war. If you want peace with me, go to the cemetery, and at midnight bring me a handful of earth from my mother's grave." Adora said to him, disappearing under the waters. Kadron, as if enchanted, set off trustingly toward the cemetery, not touching the ground. Such a thing had never happened to him before. The half-mortal that he was had taken possession of his soul. With the eagle on his hand, he reached Violetta's grave, and bending down for a handful of earth, he glimpsed a woman's silhouette. He could not take his eyes off her. She was so beautiful that he decided on the spot to follow her. From the graves, the heads of those buried emerged. Some appeared halfway, others were already moving, and Kaidron feared losing sight of the beautiful woman. He managed to follow her to the edge of the cemetery, then saw her entering the small nearby forest. Darkness had descended over the earth, accompanied by a dense fog. He could barely keep the mysterious woman in sight. It was too late when he realized he was walking through a swamp. Realizing it was a trap, he tried to get out, but the more he struggled, the deeper he sank. When the mud reached his ankles, the beautiful woman stood watching him. When the mud reached his knees, Pontianak had already approached him, smiling. When the mud reached his calves, Pontianak had already transformed into a hideous old woman and showed her teeth as sharp as blades. Blood flowed from her eyes, and her beautiful body had disappeared, replaced by a heap of mixed and rotten entrails. "Who are you?" "I am Pontianak. I serve Adora. You have no power over me. No human or non-human being can harm me. Half water, half earth. You have no power. You have lost," said Pontianak, bringing her disgusting lips close to Kadron's neck. Suddenly, a dry storm arose so powerful that Pontianak was thrown against a tree, and Kadron was pulled from the swamp and lifted into the air. Coming to his aid in the form of wind was Adora's mother, Violetta, and as soon as she had separated them, Violetta disappeared as if she had never been there and took the wind with her. The faithful eagle took flight from its master's arm, and in the blood-red sky, one could see it moving away into the night. Tenebria, once beautiful, had become a nest of vampires. No one had escaped the bite that led directly to the world of those who cannot find their place. From above, unable to control what was happening to him, Kadron watched the thousands of subjects who were heading toward the cemetery with disfigured and pale faces, seeming to be controlled by a single force that commanded them. From up there, he realized how great was the evil he had caused. While thinking this, Pontiana detached herself from the tree to which she was pinned by a force greater than her own, and rushed upon Kadron with 100-fold fury. What a fierce battle began! The vampire woman's claws had grown in an instant, and were as sharp and curved as a sickle. She had torn his arms and abdomen with them, but Kadron, having received immortality, regenerated quickly and continued to fight. The sharp teeth of the vampiress showed eagerly from her slobbery mouth, along with the gurgles from the throat from which sprouted the entrails of those she had passed to the side of evil. Half-vampire, Kadron had lost the powers he had received at birth because of the human part that had developed for the first time on the water's edge at the sight of Adora. He no longer wanted to rule the world with its earth, waters, and sky. He no longer wanted Tenebria. He would have ceded everything to Adora without asking for anything in return. But for this, he had to reach her unharmed. No sooner had he thought this than Pontianak thrust a hand into his throat and carried him in flight toward the water that would have destroyed him in an instant. Roaring powerfully, Kadron caused an earthquake, and the bottom of the waters rose so much that it formed a mountain. The creatures from the waters remained blocked and howled, turning to stone. None had the power anymore to destroy the half-man, half-vampire, and Pontianak, moving away from the cemetery on the height of the mountain, slowly transformed back into the beautiful woman. In vain she tried to lure Kadron again with tender gazes and sweet words. Without her powers, there remained of her only a poor ghost. Seeing that he had passed the danger, the son of Chaos and Katarina hurried down the mountain and, taking into account Adora's request, headed toward the cemetery where Violetta was buried, to take a handful of earth to bring to the water's edge. With difficulty he reached the grave. He had to slip through the crowd of werewolves, ghosts, and vampires. At the grave awaited the relentless Violeta, who had already prepared the handful of earth for him. As she had been dead for years, she was now only a skeleton with pieces of flesh on it and remnants of rotted clothes. "Take this handful of earth and take it to my daughter." "How did you decompose? Why aren't you like all the others?" said Kayadran, receiving the earth and putting it in his pocket. "I was released from the curse when I helped you. Now I will return to the earth, where we all belong." Saying this, Violeta's flesh and pieces of clothing disappeared, leaving of her only a clean skeleton that broke into pieces and disappeared into the earth. Kayadran wasted no more time and ran off toward the vast waters in search of the beautiful Adora. When he arrived and was about to call her, she had already emerged halfway from the water and was slowly moving toward him. "Did you bring me what I asked for?" Kayadran put his hand in his pocket and revealed the handful of earth. He looked at the being with whom he had grown up and with whom he had fought all his life. The algae that had taken the place of her hair were so bright and fresh that he could hardly restrain himself from touching them. The pale and slightly bluish face had taken on the color of the seas, but that made her even more beautiful. With slow steps she approached him. "Give me the earth from my mother's grave." Master Kayadran, realizing only now Adora's desire, took 2 steps back, frightened. "Don't be afraid. Give it to me, and everything will end well." Although she was only half human, just like Kayadran, Adora had begun to feel more than the desire for revenge, to conquer territories, and to build a solid army. She no longer wanted to rule the world, and had chosen to put an end to this foolish war between herself and the boy with whom she had grown up. From the distance came Pontianak, as fast as the wind, thoroughly angry, and when she approached Kayadran she tried again to seduce him, but it was in vain. No invisible force from the other world had any power over him anymore. In vain she implored Adora to give her back all her powers. She did not even hear the vampire woman's words. She had eyes and ears only for Kayadran, who, although destined to rule the world, was now giving everything for something much more important. "In the name of Dracon, give me the handful of earth, Kayadran," the girl insisted. Kayadran, who now knew best what to do, smiled and headed toward Adora, advancing through the water. Adora screamed, unable to believe the foolish gesture that the one she loved so much was making. In vain she rushed upon him to pull him out of the waters. Kayadran advanced without stopping, and first he decomposed up to his ankles, then up to his knees, up to his calves, up to his waist, and when the waters were about to reach his heart, Adora snatched the earth from his fist and swallowed it. As if by a miracle, at that very second, a huge wave passed over both of them, covering them for a long time. Then the waters receded so much that Tenebria remained only a region through which just a few rivers still pass, and slowly everything returned to normal. The hard-working and cheerful people sang and rebuilt their wonderful land, as it was once before the foolish war between Adora and Kayadran. Women cleaned the houses, birds chirped on the budding branches, and children played and ran freely in all directions, whooping and laughing without the fear of encountering any malevolent apparition. Pontianak, left without a mistress, still haunts the world, but her powers are no longer so great. The water had taken them with it, scattering them throughout the world. Sometimes she is still seen walking at night through cemeteries, but no one fears her anymore, because apart from the fact that she can give some scares to people who don't know her story, she is harmless. With the separation of the territories, the world beyond has withdrawn from the earth forever, except for a few vampires and werewolves who still manage to hide from the eyes of the world. Aware of their existence, the people of Tenebria keep garlic hanging at doors and windows and always carry with them a bottle of holy water. From that time, people have regularly begun to make piles of old things and burn them, because through fire they can drive away who knows what apparition from the world beyond come to Earth to conquer innocent souls. As they had promised, Chaos and Nikolai remained alongside their children and now haunt the entire Earth, scattered to the four winds, unable to gather and do any harm. The great Demosillus watched all this, victorious, and although he was tired after all the countless years he had lived, with good and bad, he could not believe that good had managed to defeat evil in the wonderful land of Tenebria, over which, at last, the sun shone, gladdening every being. And on the spot where Caedron and Adora chose eternal love instead of immortality and supremacy, there remained two piles of ash which the wind carried throughout all the earth and all the waters. As had been foretold to them, Caedron and Adora now ruled the entire world.